Well, hi, hello, and welcome to Identity and AI, the twin pillars of secure digital transformation. Now, today's exciting webinar is sponsored by Okta in partnership with AWS and produced by Actual Tech Media. My name is Jess Steinbach. I'm with Actual Tech Media, and I'm so happy that I get to be your moderator today because I love anything and everything to do with digital transformation. And this is such an interesting take, right? We have identity management and we have AI, two of the most interesting topics that we could explore. So this chat is going to have everything. We are talking about human elements. We're exploring security best practices. We're going to get into some real world case studies and use cases. With the help of our expert presenters, we will discover the strategic importance of identity in AI deployments and, best of all, how you can align your cutting edge technologies with those all important digital transformation goals. We have a great chat ahead of us. I cannot wait to dive in. So I'm going to zip through just a few important housekeeping points that are going to help you get the most out of our conversation today, and then we will get this show on the road. All right, so let's start out with a little bit of a guided tour of your audience console. We're going to take a stop in the questions window. Now, if you have questions, which I know you're going to have, because when we're talking about AI, when we're talking about identity, we're talking about digital transformation, your brain is just absolutely buzzing with questions. I can tell from here. I can see you all in the questions window saying hi and hello already. I love that. Keep that up. Keep those highs and hellos coming. We want to hear from you. But most importantly, as we go through our day together today, I want to hear your questions, and our speakers want to hear your questions. Now, they're going to be answering as many questions as they can. They have promised to try to multitask. They're going to speak and they're going to live chat simultaneously, which is just incredible. I can barely move my hands and talk all at once. So very impressed to see that come together. But get those questions in, because our speakers are going to adjust their content based on the information that they're getting from you, based on the questions that they're getting from you. And if they don't get to you in the live chat and in the live Q&A that we're going to get to at the end, we are going to make sure that all the questions you ask get sent over to Okta, to AWS, and you will get responses back. So make sure those questions are getting in the questions window there. And as I said, hi and hellos, keep that coming. I want to hear from all of you. I want to hear how your days are going. How's your day starting out today? I hope you're having a lovely one. I'm having a great day so far. All right, moving right along. So we started out in the questions window, and then we're going to take one quick hop over to the handouts tab. So that handouts tab today, absolutely chock full of resources, so many cool takeaways. And these resources are really important because the conversation that we're about to embark on when I bring our speakers on out here with me is going to be very interesting. I can promise you. I was chatting with them before we got rolling today, and I can already tell you we are definitely in for a treat. And there's going to be a lot of things that you're going to want to follow up on. You're going to want to dig in a little bit further. You know, there's no shortage of things to talk about when we get into digital transformation, when we're talking about identity, when we're talking about security, when we're talking about AI. There's a lot of layers and complexity. So spending some time with these resources after we wrap is going to help you build that more, holistic view of all the cool things that we've learned, help you know where you want to dig in further, and also help you share some of this information with your colleagues, your friends and families sitting around the dinner table. Wherever you talk about identity management, I talk about that at my dinner table. So if you are as well, this is your conversation starter for the evening. All right, so take a look at that handouts tab. Now, the last thing that I want to mention to all of you is that we do have a prize giveaway. So that's a $250 Amazon gift card that we will be giving away as a prize drawing at the end of our webinar. Now, of course, you must be in live attendance during our webinar, and all winners must meet the Actual Tech Media prize terms and conditions. If you're not sure what those T's and C's are, no problem. We have them listed for you in the handouts tab, so you can scroll right over and you will find them waiting for you there. All right, well, with that, it is time to get this conversation rolling. I cannot wait to get our wonderful presenters on out here with me. Let me introduce you to our all-star cast today for this lovely fireside chat that we have coming at you. Today, we will be chatting with Wayne Smiley. Great name, right? Wayne Smiley, Senior Sales Engineer at Okta, and Jason Patterson, Worldwide Security PSA at Amazon Web Services. So give me 1 second and I'll press my magic buttons here and we'll get Wayne and Jason on out here with me. All right, well, here we are with our wonderful dynamic duo from Okta and Amazon, and I cannot wait to get into this. Guys, why don't we start with a little bit of an introduction? Let's start with who you are, who's in the room today, and tell us what you're excited to talk about. Wayne, can I kick this to you to start us out?
Sure. Hi, everybody. My name is Wayne Smiley. I'm a senior solutions architect at Okta, And my role is working with Okta and AWS together and that partnership and helping our customers and both companies better understand how we work together.
Love it. All right, Jason, you're up. Who are you? What are you pumped to get into today?
Hey, Jess. Hey, Wayne. Yeah, my name is Jason Patterson, and I'm a worldwide security partner solutions architect with AWS. And prior to this, I worked in IT security for over 20 years, primarily in product security. And as a PSA, I partner with companies like Okta and help them partner with AWS to build solutions.
All right, so we clearly have a lot to get into today, and there's a lot to explore ahead of us. But before we get too far down the road, I kind of wanted to take a moment to get to know you guys a little bit and the wonderful solutions that you're here representing. So, Jason, I'm going to leave the mic with you for a second. Can you tell us a little bit more about Amazon Q?
Yeah, sure. So Amazon Q is a generative AI powered assistant from AWS. And there have been multiple generative AI chat applications or assistant bots that have come out over the previous couple of years that consumers have been using that have done some really exciting things. However, a lot of these offerings are limited in how much they can help the consumer at work due to the fact that they generally only have general knowledge and access to public data, so they don't have access to your company's enterprise data, customer data. They don't really understand the operations that are happening within your organization and weren't really designed with security and data privacy in mind, which they would need in order to provide this kind of data to those types of agents or chatbots. So this is the reason we created Amazon Q. And for Amazon Q, we have four different flavors. So we have Amazon Q for Business and Amazon Q in QuickSight. So Amazon Q for Business, if you're used to like BI type tools where you connect to a data source, you index that data, you make it available through charts and graphs and stuff like that. It's very similar, but you're tying in generative AI as part of this. So then you can search all that data, summarize it logically, analyze trends, and engage in dialogue with the end user in a smart way using generative AI. Next, we have Amazon Q for Developer, which helps developers and IT staff do coding, testing, upgrading, troubleshooting, and perform security scans and those sorts of activities. And then we have Amazon Q for Connect, which is more for contact center agents that can help them provide better customer service to their customers. And then we also have Amazon Q in AWS Supply Chain, which is something that's going to be released pretty soon. So Amazon Q is secure and private by design. So we respect the identities and roles and permissions that you already have as part of your Amazon account. So if someone's using Amazon Q, they should not be able to get access to data that they didn't already have access to. It should be restricted to what you've already restricted it to. You can think of it similar to how your AI application might work on your cell phone. And when you sign up for Amazon Q Developer Pro and Amazon Q for Business, we don't use the content to improve the underlying models. So we do have a free tier that would use that data. If you'd like to use the free tier and not submit that data as part of it, you can go to organizations and you can disable the sharing of that data. So that's it from my side. I'll hand it back to Jess.
Yeah, well, that's a great introduction to Amazon Q. There's actually some cool things in there that I didn't know, and some features coming soon. So that's a great way to start things out. Wayne, I'm going to now kind of flip around and ask you the same question because I do want to get to, in the very near future, I want to get to how you guys are playing nicely together. But let's start with an introduction for you as well. Wayne, talk to us about Okta.
Sure. Okay. So Okta is an identity management company, and our products are designed to both reduce friction and add security at the same time for employees, contractors, partners, with features like passwordless authentication and easy to use dashboards to kind of get everything where you need to be. On the flip side of that, we also do customer identity, which we won't be talking about today, or website authentication, cell phone applications, those sorts of things, are for your customers so that your development teams can focus on what they need to do and not worry so much about security and focus on revenue enhancing things like that. On the workforce identity side, let's talk a little bit about what Okta does. And I don't want to spend a ton of time on this, but in case you're not familiar with Okta, I want to just explain this. Okta is famous for our single sign-on. I think most people know that, but there's a lot more to it. We do things like universal directory, which means we can connect to all the different directories you have, multiple AD organizations, Azure AD, whatever it is, LDAP, doesn't matter. We connect to all those at once and give a seamless front end to all users so they look and feel the same. We also do things like adaptive multi-factor. We talked about that. Lifecycle management. I think this is going to be particularly important with Amazon Q. We'll talk about that later, but it's kind of the ability to add and remove users and maintain which users have access to what. And Jason kind of alluded to some of the importance of that a few minutes ago, as well as API access management and a ton of other things. And again, I don't want to spend too much time on that. But having gone through that, let's actually take a look at what this looks like in the real world. Okay, so what I've done here in this demo that I'm about to give you is I have logged in and gone to the URL of my Amazon Q environment, and I'm going to log in with something called Okta FastPass. And what Okta FastPass is it's going to give me the ability to basically log in, and what you're going to see, although you can't actually see it, is I am just putting my fingerprint on there. It is looking at my machine. It is looking at what computer I'm coming from, and it's taking all that information together and deciding, hey, should I have access to all of these things? Yes or no? In this particular case, I've logged in as this user before from this machine. It's aware of that because it knows that that user is assigned to this computer and all that. I won't get into the details on that, but it's logged me in and allowed me to have access to Amazon Q, which is what I want. Okay, so you can see here we have Amazon Q for Business up and running. And what I've done is since this is Gen AI, I had to feed it data, and I will let you know in advance what I fed it. I fed it just a couple of things. I fed it 2 websites. Actually, let me take a half step back. This is a fictitious food truck company that sells chicken in Columbus, Ohio. Uh, don't ask me where that came from. It just did. So I fed it a couple of things. I fed it 2 websites from, and gosh, now I'm getting hungry. I fed it 2 websites. The first one is one on food trucks. The second one is some data on Columbus, Ohio, and chicken, I believe. And then I also fed it a PDF that has a bunch of data about my kind of fictitious company. I will tell you, because this will be important in a second, that our critical product that we sell is a chicken dish called Chicken Pow Pow. So we're just going to ask it some questions and say, hey, what is Chicken Pow Pow? Now, as Jason pointed out earlier, this is only using the data that I've actually fed it. So much so that it's actually giving me references here. And what you can see here is, let me get that off the screen. What you can see here is that this is actually referencing that PDF that I fed it, that it can say the mission is to create the best fast food casual restaurant around. So you can see where it's actually getting that data. Really helpful, really useful. And you can see other data like how many people are in Columbus, Ohio. Now, this was actually in there, so it's feeding that. But let's do something completely ridiculous. Let's ask it how many people are in Orange County, California. Before I hit enter here, I want you to know that this data is not in this set at all. There's nothing that alludes to this. But let's see what happens. And then I'm going to tell you why it happened this way. Great. So what you can see here is that it says no answer is found. So what happened here is that it went and looked at my data and found nothing. I've selected the checkbox that basically says, go ahead and use other known large language model AIs to find that information. And it says there are 3.7 billion people in Orange County, including 2 people on this call. But we can get all that data. You can also, I'm not going to demo it here, I can tell it certain words that can't be used. So let's say, since we're such a famous chicken restaurant, that I don't want to have anything with lamb in it. So I don't want to ask anything about lamb. It will just tell you, you can't do that. In fact, I think I might have this. Let's try this real quick. Yeah, so he knows that. There we go. So what happened here is you can see it's blocked by our admin. So were this to be a more serious one and there were more important and sensitive information in here, obviously we would need to do grouping so that certain users had access to certain things while other users didn't. And so we can use things like groups inside Okta to actually manage that. And we'll talk a little bit about that later. Jason, anything you want to add on here, or hand it back to Jess?
Uh, no, nothing to add here.
Okay.
Yeah, but now are you craving chicken pow pow, Jason?
I am. Yeah, I didn't know what chicken pow pow was, but now I do.
See,
Thank.
you learned something new.
I I'm not clear on what it is, but I know I want to eat it. But
It
I love
sounds good.
I
I
love
don't
that
even think
you
it's real, to be honest with you. And I don't know. You can flame me in the comments or in the chat. I'm not sure, but
mean
I don't think it's real.
mean Wayne. Now you're just teasing us with phantom dishes that we can't have. I love that you put a lamb embargo and on the like,
I actually like lamb, but whatever. Chicken's fine too.
oh god. Well, that's a really cool demo. And I not just because now I'm very hungry, but also really neat to see that in action. I appreciate you walking us through that. And cool to get an idea of what parameters you can set and how customizable that is. So I think we're getting a really good idea of, now we've kind of seen Okta and we've talked about Amazon Q. But what I really want to get into, as much as I'm so happy to have you both here with us today, is why. Why did you two wonderful humans find each other? Why does Q and Okta coming together supercharge both of you and what folks can do with your solutions? So, Jason, I'm going to start with you again. Talk to us about why Q and Okta are working together and what benefits folks are seeing.
Yeah, as I mentioned before, I worked in product security for many years, and I really understand authentication, authorization, those types of problems that come up with applications and around provisioning. I know organizations pick an identity provider like Okta, and they want to use that throughout their organization to provide to provision and deprovision and do identity management. And so integrating Okta to Amazon Q is critical for us. And we wanted to make that as easy as possible for customers. So, of course, we connect through Identity Center, but Okta through SAML would be able to use SCIM and other tools to push users and groups over to Identity Center to provision those users and groups for the applications like that drive Amazon Q. And so the more seamless we can make that, the easier we can make it for customers, the better.
Yeah, that seamless, that frictionless, that's what we're all looking for, right? And security is so important and does have some friction points. So Wayne, can you weigh in on that a little bit? Talk to
Sure,
us about the
sure.
importance of that security planning and how this partnership is kind of addressing them.
Yep. So I'll kind of divide this into two areas, and I think they're
Okay.
both under the general umbrella of security. But the first one is just basic authentication.
Mm,
Okta does an incredible job at this. We have a million different ways to allow customers to do the authentication the way they want. Our mentality is we meet you where you are, not where we tell you to be. So they can
mm,
do it however they want, and then we make it nice and easy, including as simple as the fast pass, which you guys saw earlier. But in the end, the goal is to make sure that the person who logs in is in fact the person that we think that they are, and it
right.
has to be as simple as that. And that is obviously the goal. And so we work with customers to make sure that they get that the way they want it, and then they're comfortable with whatever balancing between. I hate to ever say it's frictionless. We like to reduce friction because some amount of friction in security is good. We were joking about this not too long ago and said, if I just walked by my computer and it logged me in, that's frictionless, but that's not a good thing. But if I walk by my computer, put my finger on the fingerprint reader, that's probably okay. That is a fair amount of friction to get where I need to go. Anyway, the other side of this is we need to make sure that users have the right access to the right pieces.
Right.
And that's where our lifecycle management comes in. So, for example, let's just say that your company uses a HR system. That HR system can feed Okta, so we know when users come and go, switch departments, all those things, and Okta can do those all on its own and make sure that everything is exactly the way it's supposed to be. And then we can take that data and we can feed that inside into AWS. So for example, if I knew that everybody in sales and marketing and tech support needed access to Amazon Q, I could tell it, if your department is sales, marketing, or tech support, then you're assigned a license in Amazon Q. And not only that, but I know that the tech support people need access to the knowledge base and other things that marketing doesn't need. So I can create groups, synchronize those groups into AWS Identity Center, and then use that to tell Amazon Q what pieces of that you would need access to. And so all of that can happen completely automatically and completely automated. And it allows you to be what I'd love to call lazy in a good way, right? You spend a few hours setting it up at the beginning and then you don't deal with it at all after that. And obviously the same goes if an employee leaves the organization, they're instantly out, and then we can move on from there.
I have to go back because I know this seems like semantics and a small thing, but you kind of like gave me a little like, wow, when you were saying friction light, not frictionless. And I think, we like this word frictionless, and we
Mhm.
like that idea. And I love that nuance that you just gave it, that, I think what we're meaning when we say friction is pain. And there's a difference between, we don't want this to be painful, but a little bit of friction is, it's like putting your key in the door when you get home. Like, you need something that has that security side of it. And differentiating friction light, I think you said, or small amounts of friction from frictionless, that one hit me. I really appreciate that distinction there.
It's patented.
Yeah, I'd say that's the main challenge for any security professional, is to get that balance right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a tough balance. Hey, is hitting, you if you make people, if it's too much pain, then it won't get used, or it's not effective, or it stops people from doing their work. And I love that, when you kind of hit that with the automation side of this, and especially with that life cycle management. I think that this harkens back to what you said early on. I don't often get to use the word harkens in conversation.
Was that on
But
the
what you
bingo chart?
uh, going back to what you said early on, about allowing people to focus on what's important, allowing people to focus on what generates revenue, rather than going through tasks that should be automated. So I think you've given us a lot of wins here, and we got to jump in and see things in real life in our demo. And I'd love to kind of keep going with that a little bit more. And if I could ask you guys to give a few more kind of either real world examples, or just kind of use cases that you've seen, either in sort of an interesting use case or very successful use cases, and maybe kind of tell us how this gets used in the real world around us. Jason, I'm going to start with you, and then Wayne, I'd love to hear from you as well.
Sure. Yeah, one use case that comes to mind is, I think all of us could probably benefit from this. You could use Amazon Q to just upload some documents to Amazon Q to use generative AI to search that data and provide responses back from it. So, for instance, if you're an administrative assistant or an executive and you want to summarize a document quickly for your boss or for yourself, you can easily just upload documents to Amazon Q and say, please summarize this for me. Give me the bullet points. And just that's a very simple example, but it's very, very powerful. And then you're also, taking into consideration that it's your enterprise data that you want to maintain security around. You don't want anyone else to have access to it. You want to make sure you have guardrails in place to protect it. And so allows you to use generative AI within your business in a safe way. So I think that's a quick and easy example of that.
So
Wayne?
yeah, I was going to say, let me just piggyback right on the back of that one. So I think what's important with that, and Jason alluded to several times in there, is that the security and making sure that only the right people have access to the right data is critical. And that's really where this partnership between Okta and AWS comes in, to allow that to happen very easily and very naturally. Your end users don't even get to see it. I'll tell you a quick story that just keeps popping into my head. I have a friend of mine who I hadn't seen in a few years, and I ran into her and she said, "Oh, I heard you work at Okta," and I said, "Yeah," and she's like, "We love Okta." She's like, "Everything is great. It makes my life so easy," and she goes on for like 2 or 3 minutes. I thought, oh, that's kind of nice to work for a company that people actually have heard of, and that's great. But I walked away from that conversation and realized that she's not an IT security person. As a matter of fact, she's not an IT at all. She's an end user. So it's pretty rare that you find an IT security product that end users actually like. When was the last time somebody said that about their anti-malware product? um, anyway, that aside, I think what's important to understand is going back to Q is that we're wrapping all of that critical data and we're wrapping security around that, right? From our phishing resistant multi-factor to making sure that the right users have access to the right things as they need it, to onboarding and offboarding users from your official source of truth, like your HR system, for example, and making sure that happens in relative real time. So I mean, think about that for a second. Imagine if your data just starts in HR, a new user is hired, we know where they are, we know what they need access to, all that seamlessly flows through Okta, and then they're able to log in, and in their Okta dashboard is Amazon Q for Business, and they can see all their stuff that they need. I can tell you that would have been really helpful when I came on board. Gen AI didn't exist when I came to this job, but it would have been great then. Honestly, it's great now, but yeah.
That comes up a lot for me. I'm not going to lie to you, Wayne, where I'm looking at things and I'm like, man, we had it tough when
Just those conversations that I have with my kids, and I'm like, when I was young, we didn't have the internet.
Yeah, I was in a room the other day and the speaker asked everyone to raise their hand if they could remember before the internet. And I like confidently threw my hand up and then looked around and nobody had their hand up. And I was like,
I'd have been there with you.
come on. And we had to still do things and accomplish things, and now with the onset of generative AI, we have so many things at our fingertips that are getting so much easier, and you guys have made a perfect segue to where I wanted to go next. So thank you both so much. A pluses to both of you, because I would like to talk more about Gen AI. We cannot have a conversation these days without discussing Gen AI, and so let's get into it. Jason, I think we've really focused a little bit on Amazon Q for Business and that side of things. Wondering if you could kind of expand a little bit more on what other AWS Gen AI tools are and where that kind of fits into the conversation we're having today. And Wayne, I'd like to hear from you as well when Jason's done.
Yeah, sure. So we have many generative AI and AI-based tools that we've developed and released in Amazon, and there's quite a few to go through, to be honest. And starting all the way back with, you could think of Alexa and using Lex and those kind of tools. We have Polly.
Don't keep saying that word. The lights in my house will start going on and off. So.
Alexa, turn lights off.
But most recently, and the thing we've been driving the most is obviously Amazon Bedrock, which is fully managed service. It allows you access to FMs like Anthropic and AI 21 and Cohere and those types of FMs. And so, it's an exciting time. I'm excited to see where it goes, and we're pushing extremely hard on our side to develop more and more tools to help customers build AI solutions.
Very cool. And I mean, honestly, you guys have so many, and all of them are so great that I learn new ones every day, which is fantastic. But the only thing I want to kind of layer on top of that is just that all this same goodness that we've talked about with Amazon Q for Business applies to those products as well. We can manage those. They're all done. At least I believe they're all done through IAM Identity Center, and we manage that. And for all AWS products, for that matter, same with EC2 and S3 and everything else, and all the databases and everything else everybody uses.
Yeah.
I agree. The never-ending cycle of cool new innovations, and that is a really neat thing about right now. Is there's a lot happening very quickly, and there's new innovations coming together all the time. And I have to say, it is sort of partnerships like this, AWS and Okta, that I think are really important part of keeping abreast of those pages and or changes and being at the forefront of them, really. So it's neat to see you both here today and hear a little bit about how you're supercharging each other and the end user experience. Speaking of the end users, we have a whole bunch of wonderful audience members here with us today who have been dying to ask you guys questions. And I know that you guys have been answering as many as you can. I'm saying you guys are, as soon as you finish speaking, you're answering live chat questions, which is just insane. Both of you, I can barely watch chat and speak at the same time, let alone answer. So as I said, gold stars and A pluses to both of you. But I'd like to get into some of these audience questions now.
We're not getting any questions about chicken pow pow, right?
Yes, all of the questions are about chicken pow pow, and lamb versus chicken. Yes, we've a few questions. I'm not going to lie to you, Wayne, coming in about your background. I've gotten some comments about the wonderful Grogu, and I saw a stormtrooper helmet back there. So you've got
Nice.
some fans out there as well.
My wife calls it the Museum of Wayne. So
Oh, what a great, that's perfect. Perfect name. Thank you for inviting us on this guided tour of the Museum of Wayne.
yeah, you're welcome. I sell tickets at the end.
Well, aren't you all lucky? Now you got a sneak peek to the museum just by being here today. Let's get into some audience questions because we have a ton coming in, and I want to make sure we can get to as many as we can here. So I did get a question, actually a few questions kind of coming in around actually to what we were speaking to earlier and just how fast things are changing, and especially with kind of BYOD and bringing your own device situation. So what events around Gen AI, how do you see Amazon Q fitting in, and why is it so important? I'm sorry, I'm reading this question incorrectly. With the events around Gen AI, how do you see Amazon Q fitting in, and why is it so important? Jason, obviously, I think I'm going to send that on over to you.
Yeah, sure. Amazon Q is similar to other AI bots that have been out there for a while, and
Mm,
in the sense that customers are used to using like Siri for your phone or Alexa for your home, and they've gotten very familiar with that kind of interface to those products and managing things in their home or managing things on their phone. And it makes sense to make that logical change over to managing your AWS account to that degree, to ask it questions and get answers back quickly, have it do things for you, solve problems for you. And so I really see it in the near future just getting deeper and deeper into the different services we offer at AWS and providing more and more value from a different angle, from so not using a command line. And I think it also gives people that are limited in their abilities, maybe they can't use their hands or they're not able to see, and they have some limitations. I think it gives them an opportunity to interface with AWS and start to be administrators.
Yeah, and I'll just layer on top of that that one of the nice things that AWS has done is most of these new environments are hooked into AWS IAM Identity Center, and that allows Okta to hook them in and all the goodness that we've talked about before to work with them. And one of the things I'm noticing is as these newer solutions come out, they're more complex, and a lot of the data in there is more sensitive. So it becomes even more important that this
mm,
is done in a secure, repeatable fashion where everything is being handled in an automated way.
mm. All right, some great answers. Are you guys ready for a hardball question?
Sure.
We'll see.
Here's
Yeah.
yeah, right.
That's a
Give
good
me a
answer.
minute. We'll decide. Here's why this is a hardball question. I absolutely love when somebody does this. I can tell when they have like five thoughts all at once, and so they put five questions together into one. So I am going to throw five or six questions at you, all jammed into one gooey ball of goodness. All right. One might say a pow pow chicken of questions. Um, we're going to talk about data source. So what data source does Amazon Q connect to, and how does it technically work? Now, here's the follow-up questions. How do we secure it, and how does Okta add to the security around it? Now, they're not done yet. Why is Okta so critical to that security? And what happens if the customer does not have an SSO solution, IDP? What other value does Okta have? Would you like me to repeat that, or did you guys get that?
No, I think I got it. I'll let Wayne answer the last half of that question as it
Perfect.
ties to Okta. But yeah, so Amazon Q, they have over 40 different data sources, and we're adding more and more. Again, if you're familiar with QuickSight, similar there on the data source side. But you can, have it go crawl websites and pull data from there, or you can upload files directly. You can use S3 or Salesforce or ServiceNow. It also has access not only to cloud-related stuff, but it also is able to pull data from on-prem. So if you have GitHub or Confluence or MySQL, you can configure Amazon Q to go to your on-prem locations and get data as well. And so the way we secure it is there's administrative controls, there's guardrails. We have stuff like global controls, which would allow you to access other LLMs, as Wayne demonstrated earlier. So that is a checkbox you can go and disable. We also have topic specific controls, which Wayne also did demo earlier as well, where he said, we don't want to answer this particular question. I forget what the question was there, but
Lamb. Remember lamb?
lamb.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So you have the ability to go in there and add those kind of controls in as well. And on top of all this, if you're worried about the data and where it goes, it's stored in DynamoDB or it's stored in S3, but it can have customer encrypted keys if you're using developer, or it has AWS managed encrypted keys. So everything gets stored, encrypted, just like any other managed service you would typically use in AWS. And the rest of it, I'll let Wayne answer.
Well, I actually learned something new. I didn't know where it actually stored that data. I didn't know it was in S3, but hey, you learn something new every day, don't you? Now I need to go through my S3 buckets and find out what terrible things are in there. Just kidding. Look, obviously, we've talked a lot about how Okta secures this, and I'm not going to rehash that again. We kind of work around all this stuff. But I think there was one critical question that's in there, and that is, what happens if you don't have an IDP like Okta connected to Amazon Q for Business, for example? And the answer is, it really doesn't work very well. It would be a scenario where you are manually creating those accounts in AWS by hand each time. And that is a daunting task. That is exactly the antithesis of my being lazy in a good way, right? Not to mention the security ramifications for that, what happens when people leave, etc. This might be a manageable thing if you're dealing with AWS for administrators, meaning we know these 25 people have access to EC2 or whatever it is. But when you're talking about end users in large volume, it becomes completely untenable to do that manually. And by the way, you shouldn't do it with administrators either, but at least it is potentially viable. So obviously we add the value of solving all of those things and making that easy to use and keeping it secure, which is what we do.
Awesome. I'm very impressed that you guys managed to hold all of those questions.
I think we
I
got them
think
all, did we? I don't
anyone.
think we missed any, did we?
No, I think you hit it all right in the chat. If the guys missed any of the things that you had intended to cram into your chicken pow pow question. I'm just using that as a general term now. uh, that's my new favorite descriptor. Okay, I think we're running a little close to time here, but I'm going to sneak in just one or two more questions. This one here, Wayne, I think I'm going to send over to you. Does the solution work with other tools as well? What do you got?
Yeah, so I'm going to assume that they're asking about Okta, and I'll say it this way: we've talked very, virtually exclusively with how Okta and AWS works together, but this exact same thing works with other tools as well, be it Salesforce or ServiceNow or Office 365 or Google Workspace or 7,900 plus applications that we have integrations in Okta built today to do all the same kind of things we've talked about. So I think it's probably worth noting that we do those same things, make it much easier, reduced friction to get to your systems, and as well as making it secure at the same time.
This is great. I feel I've learned so much. We've got friction light. We've got lazy in a good way. We've taken a guided tour of the Museum Dwayne. I mean, this has just been quite the day. I hate to say that we're getting close to the end of time, but we are nearing where we need to wrap up. Before we start to change gears here, two things that I want to do. One, I want to let everyone in the audience know that I know we did not get to all of your questions, and I am so sorry about that. But we'll just have to have Wayne and Jason back on because clearly there's a lot more to dig into here. So stay tuned. But two, we are going to make sure that all of the questions that didn't get answered over live chat and didn't get answered in our live Q&A are sent on to the Okta team. So you will get answers back from Okta and AWS. So get those questions in. If they're still kind of burning a hole in your brain, there's still time to get those questions, and we will make sure that you get answers back. Now, before we get into our final wrap up and outro, I want to ask you guys for last thoughts and key takeaways. What would you like everyone in the audience to walk out of this room thinking about, besides heading to the nearest food truck immediately, and I assume ordering lamb? What is the main thing that you would want to sort of be in their head as they walk away? And Jason, I think I'll put you in the hot seat first, and then Wayne, you can wrap us up.
I think the thing that comes to mind to me is that employees are using generative AI with or without approval in most cases, I think, and I think that's something you have to consider. And so Amazon Q is a good solution to that problem. If you make it available to your users, to your employees to search those documents, to make shortcuts, to summarize documents, so to make sure that it's not going out of the company. I that would be my last thought for Amazon Q.
Yeah, and just before I get on mine, just to add on to Jason's, it's just like cloud computing was, I don't know, maybe 10 years ago or so, when people were buying it whether IT did it or not, so you may as well do it. I remember and I was in IT, maybe it's more than 15 years ago. It was a long time ago. But I remember having those conversations with IT management saying they're doing it anyway, so we may as well get on the bandwagon. And I think that's an excellent point and a better way to do it, and clearly in this case a far more secure point, because we certainly don't want the main Gen AI models out there learning off of your corporate data. I know there's been some examples of where that's happened in the past to the detriment of those companies. So we definitely want to avoid that. Anyway, having said that, obviously security wrapping around all of that is paramount and critical, and Okta is the best product to go out and make that happen.
I like that a lot. So we know we need to do it. If we're going to do it, let's do it our way. Let's do it the secure way. Let's make sure that it's fitting with our infrastructure and our organizational needs, rather than just sort of letting it be that gorilla chat GPT or whatever. Not that I've ever done that. Anyways, moving on, we would love to wrap with some action steps. So you've given us some great final thoughts. You've given us some great things to consider. And now we're ready to take action. And I think that is the really important step, because these conversations are really great. And honestly, I have truly had a blast with both of you today. And I'm so glad that you came to join us. And it's a lot of fun, and we learn a lot. And then we need to take that follow up. We need to take it from, the conversation to the action, even if that next action step is having conversations with your team members and kind of talking this, forward and through in your organization. So I'd love to give some folks out there a key next step, something that they should do to learn a little bit more about Amazon Q and about Okta. And maybe we'll just do this in the same order again. Jason, if there's any sort of next steps that you'd want for folks to learn a little bit more. And then Wayne, I'm going to have you be our grand finale with sort of follow-ups and next steps.
Sure. Yeah, you can go to awsamazon.com/Q and get an overview of what Q is. And then from there, you can sign up for a free trial. And again, if you want to do the free trial, you don't want your data to be absorbed by AWS and used in our models, make sure it's disabled under organizations. And I think just go out there, do a free trial, try it, and see how useful it is.
Yeah. And I will tell you, for what it's worth, I mean, obviously the demo you saw took me 15 or 20 minutes to set up. It was really easy. So just to Jason's point. I'll just mention a couple things. I know there's a handout tab on the side over here, and you can use that on the bottom, and you can use that to find a bunch of information out. For example, we have a one-pager about AWS, Amazon Q, I'm sorry, yeah, that's right, and Okta working together. I'd also like to mention that our biggest user conference of the year is Octane, which is in October, and we'll have a lot of information about this. I will actually be speaking there, though not about this exact subject. And reInvent is coming up in December of this year. We will be there talking all about this. We've just started to make those plans now, so we're really excited about that. And as well as we have a link to our website there, lastly. So all that information is there. You can look at all of that. And if you have any questions, please reach out to us.
Yeah, that handouts tab is just a treasure trove of information. So please do spend some time with it a little bit later on, and some cool follow-ups. Lots of neat things coming up in the fall and into the winter. I cannot believe how my brain was like, oh, that's so far away. I was like, no, October's around the corner. So sign up now. That's upsetting. Well, Not to end on that negative note, Jason and Wynn, thank you so much. I really truly have enjoyed this conversation. I've absolutely learned a lot from both of you, and I really want to thank you for coming to share your story here with our audience today.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Jeff.
Jeff.
Appreciate it.
Jason.
Yeah, thank you, Wayne.
And in extra good news, we have a little bit of a poll question for everybody out there. So what I'm going to do is hand things over to Keith Ward, who is waiting in the wings. He's been itching to get in on this conversation. I know he's been watching the live chat and just dying to be a part of this. So Keith is going to jump in and give a poll question to all of you. So get your fingers limbered up and get ready to answer that poll. Let's get this going. Keith, over to you.
And here I am. Thank you so much, Jess. I'm feeling a little bit like Alfred Hitchcock today. For those of you know who Hitchcock is, the famous director, he always showed up for a few seconds in a movie of his. Became an actor for just a moment, then he disappeared again. Well, that's what I am doing today. I am here to do this poll question and then pass it back to Jess. So here is the poll question for you. How is your company using Gen AI today? Please let us know. There's a number of answers here. This kind of feedback is super important to us, and we really appreciate you letting us know your thoughts and feelings on this. And the other thing I'm going to do after I finish this up here in just a minute is I'm going to go order some chicken pow pow if I can find any restaurant that actually serves it. I didn't know what it was before today either. It sounds a little dangerous. My stomach is slightly sensitive. So chicken pow pow may not be for me, but it might be for you. So anyway, enough of that nonsense. Take a look at the poll question. Keep voting in that. You have another few seconds on this. What a great discussion, Jess, you led with the folks today. Fantastic information. AI is on everyone's mind, and it's just becoming more and more integrated into everything we do in every way. So it's great to see companies like Okta doing so much innovation and leading edge stuff out there. Loved having them on. And our poll is starting to wrap up now. I'll give everyone a few more seconds. And I will also remind everyone you have another minute or so to get a handout. So do that as well. And with that, everyone, I am going to pass this back to the luminous Jess. That's it for me today. I'm going to fade into the background again, Hitchcock style.
All right. Well, thanks for running that poll, Keith. Really interesting to get that insight from our wonderful audience. And thank you to all of you for taking some time to answer that, as well as continuing to get those questions in and clicking on those handouts. Man, we gave you a lot of homework right at the end there. Well, I tell you what, we will reward all of that good activity that you're all taking with a little bit of a prize giveaway. So let's do a $250 Amazon gift card to someone who is here live, present, and lucky at the webinar today. And that special somebody is Ali Vafa from Maryland. Ali Vafa from Maryland, congratulations to you. Ali or Ali, sorry if I've done that incorrectly. Ali or Ollie. Either way, you've won. And as always, we will be in touch about claiming your prize after we wrap up the webinar. With that, on behalf of the Actual Tech Media team, I want to once again thank Okta and AWS for making this webinar possible, especially to our incredible speakers, to Wayne and to Jason. You've absolutely given us so much to think about today. I've loved taking the time to break down these pillars and what is possible, especially with a partnership like Okta and AWS. I really want to thank all of you for taking the time to join us. You know, none of this, not any piece of this is possible without all of you out there. So I very much appreciate the time that each one of you has put aside in your day to come and join in. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you enjoyed our tour of the Museum de Wayne and enjoyed all of the other wonderful moments that we've had today. And as we've said several times now, I'm very hungry. I need to go find a food truck. I need to go get some chicken in me stats. So I'm going to go try to invent the dish chicken pow pow. All right. Well, I'm going to get rolling on that. And I really do want to thank all of you for joining us today. I hope you're carrying this conversation forward in your day and spending some time thinking about how you can continue to align the tools and technology you have with the larger goals that your organization is dreaming of when it it comes to digital technology. I hope we've helped make that feel a little more attainable today. As well as, best of all, I hope you had fun. I know I have. And I look forward to seeing you all at a webinar again soon. Until then, have an absolutely beautiful end to your day. Thanks all.